Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Monday. For this here, the part 4 final culmination of season 19, we have two people that can give us some fact checking in real time about how Cody and Robyn really met, allegedly. Maybe they can tell us some of these stories that it seems like the Browns are struggling to remember how things really went down. But I was particularly happy to know that we were going to do this together because there was so much in this tell-all where it was about their history. And I know you guys don't know them, like, you don't know maybe their blood type or whatever, but we're
not besties at the moment.
You know them better than we certainly do. So it's really, I'm so excited about this. I made a little intro. It's like 15 seconds and I'll play that, let the room load, and then we'll get started.
Yay.
Rob and I are accused all the time that all we ever wanted was each other. It's just BS. It's internet BS. It's just crappy commentary on our family.
Well, maybe the viewers saw something early on that the Brown family wasn't able to recognize within themselves.
In denial of.
Welcome to the crappy commentary, you guys.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. What did you guys think of part 4? It was a lot about intimacy.
It lit me up pretty good.
She's been.
Oh, I've been really frustrated. I'm like, I got to take some ashwagandha or whatever it is to calm myself down before I get on the live.
There was so much. Cody really likes to speak out both sides of his mouth, right? Like, literally, we have I never loved them, and I guess I was vulnerable with Mary in like a 2-minute time span, and it's extremely frustrating. I felt bad for Mary and Janelle and Christine because the emotional roller coaster of just knowing Cody has to be so, and it actually made me feel bad for Robyn. Because when he said that he knows that if he and Robyn ever broke up, they would still love each other, I was like, actually, I think you might go harder against her than you do even Christine.
Right.
Well, and I feel like that line that he just used right there, in his belief system, I'm never going to break up with Robyn. But what he was saying, I felt like that whole line, he was saying that to Mary because Mary probably knows more about him, has more dirt on him, where he's left the other two wives out of a lot of the loop. And so he was just warning her, hey, we're going to be good. I'm remembering great things that we had about you.
See how we don't talk shit on each other.
See how we
Mary?
don't talk.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
We stay nice to each other.
You can tell he totally got to Mary before they filmed this. He probably had a real lovely 10-minute phone call with her that was just what she needed to hear in order to not eviscerate him. And it worked. Right. He knows exactly how to play it with Mary.
They all do. It's almost like people have asked us on our channel, is there like a training class where these men learn to treat these women like complete crap? It's a watched behavior. And honestly, in the LDS church, now I'm not speaking for all LDS people. Cory's like, Melanie, be careful. Don't blanket statement. I'm not doing that, but it is very much taught. It's an unspoken teaching that we just watch the way that the men treat the women. And it's come down from the very beginning of the LDS church. And it's just amplified on steroids in polygamy, I think, in my experience. And not every LDS man treats his women like that. No. I get that. But it is very much, women are so subservient that they don't, their opinions don't matter.
It's not even that the women are subservient. They just can't hold the priesthood. The man is the leader and is a priesthood holder. So yeah, it's a built-in belief system, if you will. To always look to the priesthood leader for advice, whether you're a child or whether
Right.
you're a wife. So it's something we were trained as little kids to go and ask your priesthood leader. So it's a training. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Speaking of little kids, at what point did Cody learn the word trite? Because he used it like 4 times in this episode. And I don't think I've said that word that much. I think maybe when it was like a spelling word. And then I never used it. I don't think I've ever used that in my everyday vernacular. And this man threw it around like it was the word of the day.
Well, I feel like that's what he does. He finds like these specific words and then he
Yeah.
uses them in big boy sentences. Like he's like, "Oh,
Yes.
look, I'm educated."
Yep.
And we're both sitting here like, wait, and I'm not claiming to be that educated of a person, but even still, he makes it so obvious that, oh, I learned a big boy word today. This is what I'm going to use on this episode.
Yeah, I was watching it. I was like, isn't that a fish? And my husband's like, no, that's tripe. I was like, oh, okay.
That's hilarious.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I'm
No,
a
one of the
product
things
of Cal State College.
Mhm.
So.
well, I didn't graduate high school till I was 25, so you have me on that one.
You know what? We all get there some
Yeah,
way.
I had to get married and have babies, so I didn't go to high school. But yeah, one of the things that struck me so sad about this whole episode is we start right off the bat with Christine saying that Cody thinks about himself first, and that the women get what's left over. She got what was left over, and that is, I have said that more times than I can even count in all of our recordings that we've done. That is such the way that this society works. The men are always fed first. The women they get, if there's anything left over, that's what they get. And so that's how we started the whole episode, was Christine coming right out of the gate saying, yeah, you know, and then I love David's commentary too, because David's like, no, you're not equal like you and I are. And he's like making her equal with him. So, you know, he's dated a lot of crazy polygamous chicks, so he knows. So
David broke my heart a little bit with his insight, especially he's like, you know, what did he say? That these women were ruined by polygamy. And he used
by the men.
Yeah, his sister as an example. And then the fact that he's dated a bunch of ex-polygamists. And that Christine has been a diamond in the rough for him. I thought that was incredibly sweet of him to say about Christine, but it was a heartbreaking anecdote to bring up about just what polygamy does to women.
And it does break us. It absolutely does. What we're going to say.
If they have any self-esteem, or that's taught out of them at a young age, and that they have so many teachings, obedience, so that one of the things that I was telling Melanie was I was done with dating, but one of the things that I had off of my list was I didn't want to date a crazy polygamous chick. And
those are his exact words.
I was like, no, I'm done dating within that pool. They had no self-esteem. And all of a sudden, Melanie and our friends, she has self-esteem. She's and I'm like, oh, okay. So I started to change my belief system on who I would date when I started dating Melanie. But they are and the minute that they start to get an opinion or self-esteem, it's shamed out of them. So constantly within the group we grew up in. So
you really have to work hard to find that.
We have a super chat here. Thank you, the mother of Baggins. I like that play on words. Trite was on his word of the day toilet paper that day. Yes.
That's right.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
For sure. One of my favorite lines. Janelle is just coming in hot with
she is. Oh my gosh.
Like this Earth Mama, like tell me more about it, Janelle.
I loved it.
Yeah, but I think because I made the observation from watching this installment that I think Cody especially really lives in the comment section because he brought up multiple times the internet and he clearly watches the show, which actually made me sad for him, because I think the show has had a profound impact on his real life relationships, especially with his kids, because he watches what is said about him on the show and he takes everything incredibly personally. It seems to have had a very negative impact. But I know that it seems that Janelle too has her thumb on the pulse of what people say, because we talk all the time about this word safe. They always use the word safe. This is safe. That is safe. Like therapy speak. And Janelle in this installment goes, yeah, safe came with Robyn. Like,
I loved it when she said that. We both cracked up laughing. We're like, yes, that's it. Well, I do have to give Robyn some credit, because she really, you can tell she's been through therapy. You can tell she's been learning some things. And how I met Robyn's mom was at actually like a group, like a learning therapy thing. And she was sitting behind me and my family, and she introduced herself to me and then introduced herself as being Robyn's mom. And like, I should think that was a really great big deal. And so I just laughed because I'd never met her before. She knew Cory because they grew up together. So she knew who Cory was, and she knew who we were because of my dad. And so, and she's still a part of, or claimed to be at the time part of the AUB. So the things that Robyn says are very familiar and go right in alignment with the things that we were learning in that class. Yeah. So I know Robyn's been to similar classes like that. So I want to give Robyn some credit, because she is trying to learn how to communicate. The problem is, and I'm just going to be sorry, I just watched the episode and I'm still a little hot. So please be patient with me as I rip on this man for a second.
Come in hot.
He's such a tool, and she has learned how to use these communications either for a positive or a negative way, whichever she decides to use them. And he's such a tool, and he's so easily manipulated that she can use it this way to manipulate him and this way to communicate more effectively. And so, and a lot of times when people do these kind of classes, that's what they do. They learn the word, they learn the verbiage, and then they manipulate people with it. And I think she's gotten that part down really well. And he has gotten I'm such a tool, use me. I'll do whatever you say. And so it's really sad.
I've said this, and maybe you guys can shed some light, because I'm at a loss for just how we see Kody get choked up remembering meeting.
Well,
Robyn.
He cries on demand now. He's really good.
Like
good tricks.
Well, in my opinion, watching this, because I'm not here to rag on anyone's looks, but we all get older, right? None of us are 30 years old anymore. And the way, Robyn's had 5 kids, she's lived polygamy. I think polygamy, it prematurely ages women, it would seem, because Mary, Janelle, and Christine have all had glow ups since leaving. Yeah. So I think something you can do for yourself, that's true self-care if you're a woman in polygamy, is to leave. But Kody seems to still be under this spell of Robyn, that she chose him or that she paid him any attention. And he rides so hard to make other people know that he has this prize possession. And I mean, heck, on the one hand, wouldn't we all love for our partner to feel that way about us, that they are so lucky to be with us? But on the other hand, it's like we all have eyes, Kody, like, and it makes me feel bad, because it's like, I'm not coming on here to shit on the way Robyn looks, but my dude, like, what does she have on you? It makes me think that Kody has, or Robyn has something on Kody. Or is this common in polygamy, that when a man has this favorite wife, she can do no wrong ever?
I've seen it both ways. I've seen it, like, especially, I've seen it where some men are like, no, you can't talk about her. nope, that's not that. You misunderstood her intentions. You misunderstood what she meant. There's just always this reason why she's not in the wrong. And so, yeah, I feel like you see it in both ways. And then eventually, like, that wife gets put out to pasture and the new wife comes in and she's now the new favorite toy. And now you can't talk about her that way. And so I've kind of seen it both ways, where sometimes they'll correct them and sometimes they won't correct them. And sometimes they're just allowed to run amok and they can do whatever they want to, whenever they want to, however they want to. And the men just, and I don't understand it either. I wonder if Robyn has something on Cody too. And I really, really, really loved it in this episode when Christine clearly says, oh, how close were they before they got married? Let's ask that, and that happens so often in polygamy, where a man will have premarital sex with one of the women. That's an instant dissolving of the family. And they don't tell anybody until way down the road. And then they're like, oh yeah, when we got married, we had premarital sex. And then boom, that's an instant. All the wives are given releases and they're gone. And so it's not a good thing. So I wonder sometimes if that's where Cody's, and I'm sorry, when you have to try to convince people that your love story is such a poetic, great love story, it's not. So
yeah, it's kind of one of those things, like, let other people tell you you're funny or you're awesome or whatever, because if you have to, methinks thou doth protest too much. But we do have a question for you guys. Twyla asks, burning question, why was it okay for K and R on the 11-day honeymoon to prance around almost naked in swimsuits and no magic underwear?
It actually wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It wouldn't have been appropriate for, I was surprised to see Cody doing that. Robyn, on the other hand, she had just gotten hers. So they weren't familiar to her. She hadn't been wearing them.
So you don't get the garments until you're married?
Right. Until you go through their temple or the endowment house. And in the LDS church, you do that if you're going to go on an LDS mission and you're going to be proselyting for the church, then you'll go through it. But in the because they don't have missionaries in AUB, you don't get them until you go through the church and you receive, they're called endowments. And as part of the endowment, you receive the garment. And so for Robyn, she's not used to wearing them. You can see that in the first few episodes. She's got her short sleeves on, she's got t-shirts. And so you can tell she's not wearing them, and she's never worn them in her life because she's never been married that way. She only married her first husband because she got pregnant, and they wouldn't have been allowed to go through the church temple at that point because they were pregnant before they got married. And so, but for Cody, he'd been wearing them for 20 years. So they're very natural for him. So you'll see whenever they go on their walks or he's working out, he's always in long sleeves and long, shirts. Yeah. Now he's not, but back then he was, whenever he does his workout scenes. And so he's very familiar with that. So I was really, really surprised to see that they were in their swimming suits and stuff on television.
Yeah. Especially on television, he would have been probably, if he was talking to his AUB leaders, reprimanded for that they weren't showing what they should be doing in everyday life. They were stepping out into the public or the Gentiles and acting like Gentiles. So
yeah, but at one point, if you notice, they do go surfboarding, right? They're learning how to surfboard, and they are in the long sleeved and the long swim or wetsuits. Now they probably had their garments on underneath that. That's what I would wear. So there's a possibility that they could have had them on. They might not have, but there's a possibility that they could have had them on with those wetsuits on.
Well, I don't think they did because he peeled it off and was flexing.
Oh, you're right.
So I don't think he had them on underneath that.
Right. Do they make ab colored or ab edged undergarments?
No.
No. Now I'm just sacrilegious.
No, it's awesome.
And they are very they're not easy to put on and off. They're a one-piece suit. And
I've watched several ex-Mormon content creators and it's like, I don't know if I would go this far if I was ex-Mormon, but she has gotten dolled up in her what she wore to her wedding, and she's shown the undergarments. And even I'm not Mormon, but even I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'd do that. But you know, you go off because it's so secretive and people are obviously curious. But it's a lot of clothes to wear under your clothes.
Well, and the AUBs are completely different than the Mormon churches now. They used to all be the same. And so they're literally like a pair of long johns. But you have to put them on a specific way, and then you take them off a very specific way. And so, but they are a full one-piece suit, and then they just tie in the middle and then have a cut in the back so you can do your bathroom duties. But in the LDS church, they're two pieces. You have a shirt and shorts, or shirt and pants, or whatever. So and so the AUB is one piece. So it is very hard. But like, I used to wear a full length wetsuit, and I would put my garments on underneath the wetsuit when we would go on the boat sometimes. So not every time, but sometimes I did. So
so I've talked about like Walmart heaven, which is when you have less than 3 wives.
I love that too.
Reaching that highest level. That, to me, you get a fast pass to Bloomingdale's heaven. If you're doing all of that, I think God says, girl, come on into the VIP lounge. You have done your part. One of my favorite things about season 19 is because nobody likes each other anymore. And I think it's going to be even worse next season because Mary... because Cody, he's such an a-hole. I know that he called her like minutes before they started filming and was like, hey, Mare, remember how we're best friends? Don't shit talk me, okay? And she was like, okay, Cody, can we like have lunch or coffee or something? And he was like, I'll think about it. But one of my favorite things is, so when they bring up the release, I love watching Cody get held to task. So I know you guys have talked on your channel about how the only authority that can really check Cody would be God or like church leadership, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he gets checked by church leadership and he's mad. He's big mad. And I loved watching that. He's like, oh, well, I don't even believe in that anymore. So one of the parts that I found really interesting, because I know you guys have talked about it. I've talked about it. We've talked about it together. Is about whether or not Robyn still has one foot in the door with the AUB. Like, if I've always thought that Robyn still very much would love to be a part of the AUB.
Yeah.
It was interesting to me in this installment to see her, or to hear her say, I don't know about polygamy because I choose Cody. And if Cody's not into it, like, I choose him, so then I won't be into it either. What did you guys think of that?
I was so shocked when she said that. Because I didn't expect her to say that. I thought Cody sat there and said to the wives through every season we've seen, or even any back play, he even said it right there in this last tell-all. If you choose me, it makes it about me and not about the family and not about what we're doing. And so then all of a sudden she says, I choose Cody. And I was like, wait, what? It kind of gave me a little bit of whiplash because we're taught our whole lives, it's not about the man. It's about the family. It's about the sacredness and the holiness of unity that you're trying to create.
And he's just the leader of that.
That. So I was really surprised by that, because I personally still think she has one foot in the door.
Yeah.
Do you?
Well, she has family. She still has family that's a part of it too.
Of her family is still in there.
What about
Cody?
Does Cody have family in the AUB?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, still quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And then of course her kids, her kids' dad is deeply, I don't think he's part of it anymore, but he's still deeply rooted, and they're still, you know what I mean?
His whole family is.
There's roots all over the place. So if she did decide, I think she just kind of keeps one foot in the door. I've been
Yeah.
curious if she's reached out to my dad. Do you know what because I swear they watch our stuff because now, and especially now that Cody's confirming he watches online commentary. Because we've said something and then all of a sudden, boom, they say it in a couple, they talked about the whole soulmate thing. And I was like, he's watching our shit. So I wonder if she's called my dad, and because her and my dad were really close and
Robyn
they talked
and
all the
your dad?
time. Yeah.
Oh.
And so he counseled her all the time about going into this family and going on TV and all sorts of stuff. And so I'm curious. I kind of wonder if she might have reached out to him. So
and in a sense, I kind of feel bad for Robyn, because if Robyn really is still very much believing that this is the path to, I make jokes, but I don't want to, whatever someone's personal beliefs are about the afterlife is fine. I'm not here to judge that. But if she really is, if that is her deeply held belief, this is a disaster. And if you're in love with a man who's never going to want to do this, what do you do?
Yeah.
Or in love with a man who will never make it into the top
celestial kingdom.
So,
Right.
And that's your whole goal. That's what you've been trained as from childhood, to make it to the celestial kingdom. And you're still in love with this guy, but maybe it'll be one of those things. Well, 2 of them haven't got official releases, so we'll let the Lord work it out.
Okay, so that's what I've been thinking, Cory, is that Robyn is banking on the
loophole.
Yes, that they didn't get spiritual release. Now, you guys will have to let us know. Can the prophet just say it doesn't matter if they ask for it, we release them?
They can. It's just not very often that they ever do that. It's more they can if they're like, okay, let's say you have to be careful about how I say this, but or not. They can if they have a purpose for that woman. And they're like, you're released. He's no longer worthy. You're released. I'm going to marry you now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Because if anyone deserves to just have their Bloomingdale's heaven ripped from them, it would be Cody. I'm not gonna super go there for her. I don't think she's well intentioned, but she's not the priesthood holder, so her culpability is a little bit less, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But what's sad too, though, is I have seen women literally be brokenhearted because their husbands will leave, right? And they're shattered because they're still deeply in love with their husband. They don't want to get a divorce. And then the leadership comes to them and says, listen, the only way that he's leaving and he's taking, however many wives want to go with him are leaving. The only way you need to stay. And so you need to get a release. So I personally know some of my very good friends have done that, where they have literally left a man that they are deeply in love with because he left the church. And so that's why I say I can see Robyn doing that. And I think also I'm wondering, because we don't see Robyn laying it on as thick as Cody about their romantic love story and how wonderful everything was for them. But you see Cody doing that. Why is he doing that? Is he making it so Robyn feels even more uncomfortable to leave him, if that's the case? You know what I mean? Because and so I have watched women do that. I've watched women, what they believe, making that earthly sacrifice for their eternal salvation. So
and she does tell Christine's story and then makes it her own. So that's that.
The lightning bolt.
The lightning bolt one.
So hard about that.
And so here Cody is in church setting off these huge lightning bolts. He's a big Tesla guy. And I've got the opposite effect where I'm doing the static cling, zapping somebody, and they're like, get away from me. But he's got that big lightning bolt hitting all the women. So that's some charisma.
Plagiarism.
Yep.
Well, we see that a lot with Robyn. I mean, we're only in season 3, but we've already seen it a lot with Robyn, where she takes someone else's experience or story and claims it as her own and starts retelling it as her own. And so, yeah, I've seen that. It's interesting to watch.
Oh, I'm so
That's a really
excited for
nice
you guys
story.
to get to the adoption season when Robyn has this portrait commissioned of Cody with a younger version of Cody with younger versions of her kids. And she literally provided the artist a photo of Christine and Cody and their kids as like inspiration to commit.
Nice.
So yeah, like literally stealing memories that never existed.
It's not bad enough that you came in and stole my husband and pretty much had an adulterous interaction with him. And
Allegedly.
now you want to take my kids. And you see that a lot in this religion, unfortunately, where these women come in and they idolize or they look up after, one or two women. And then they're like, I want that life. And so then they go try to create. And Robyn always did have a lot harder of a time with Christine than she's had with any of the other wives. Because Janelle just doesn't give a shit. Janelle's just like, I don't care enough about you to be affected, where Christine did and wanted to be friends. So
yeah. And the way you guys have explained how like the weddings go and what's traditional for like the incoming wife to be received by the next most recent wife, that had to have been incredibly hard for Christine because Christine also just didn't want this period, and then she has to like literally hand her husband over.
Yeah, we were just talking to my mom about this yesterday, I think it was, and my mom was saying, when my dad got the wife right after my mom, she was like, I wasn't included in anything. And she goes, the only reason I was included is because her mother, the new wife's mother, included my mom. And she goes, and then of course I had to be at the ceremony because I had to put her hand in his hand so that they could actually get married. She goes, other than that, I had nothing to do with any of it. And so there are some women out there who choose to do that and choose to have it. But what the part with Robyn that frustrates me is she gets on there and she's like, I want this whole family. I didn't just want the man. I wanted the whole family. It's like we were a team and I wanted to work together, and then didn't include a lot of the wives and a lot of the stuff. So that's what doesn't make sense to me is she says that, but that's not Christine's experience. That's not Janelle's experience. So they say all the pretty words on how to be a good sister wife and all the things to do, but they don't actually do it behind the scenes. So
one of the saddest things to me watching, particularly this installment, was, Janelle, Mary, and Christine, they can all sit there and while they acknowledge what has become of their family, they can appreciate good memories. And I think Christine called this out. Like, I don't know why Cody has to like go there and just say the mean thing. Like, why can't we just have had good moments and let that be that? But Cody has to literally erase history. And then we see him dealing in real time, sitting there talking to Suki going, oh yeah, I guess I was vulnerable with Mary. Oh man, it's been a long time since I thought nice things about her.
Yeah. And then Suki tells that to Mary and I just instantly pause the TV. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to mess with Mary's head so hard. She's obviously done a lot of healing, but there's obviously still some affection there. And that's going to just mess with her. Like, wow, he actually remembered having close connection. Oh, it broke my heart for Mary.
I definitely don't envy Suki for having to play like telephone, like 5 different conversations. I did love that she kept broaching the subject of everyone sitting down on a couch together, because it'd probably, if she is asked back, it would make her job a whole lot easier. But Cody was like a hell no to that. And it's so frustrating because it's like, Cody, real people in their real lives get divorced and move on. But when you're divorced and filming a reality show, that just is not your reality. Unfortunately or unfortunately, people that tune in to watch drama about your family are going to want to know. And he was so whiny about, and I get if he feels that like talking about his early college sexual encounters was crossing a line, like, but the interpersonal relationships of, could you guys ever sit on a couch together and be grown-ups? It's like, come on, dude.
I know.
He he brought up that conversation, and then he gets wounded when she asked more questions about it.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. So
and
because she was making sports related, and now you're making fun of me, kind of is almost how I felt like you're making fun of me and digging into stuff that I don't want to talk about. So
I saw him. He like gestures almost around the room, like looking for like producers to like cut the line of questioning off. And Suki, I will give it to her, was really going for the questions. And I was like, I appreciate that, Suki. You showed up for work.
I was surprised too. And then she just held her own. Like he tried to shame her and tried to slap her back into like, you remember who you are. And she was just like, oh, really? Okay, let's talk about it. And so we laughed. We actually paused it right then too. And I was like, look how I go right back to the Cody is a tool. And she can say something to make him go blah, 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 and he can't stop. He can't close his mouth. And then it's like, okay, they're obviously doing this in sections. And then he got off. It's not his turn anymore. He goes off and Robyn, gives him a hand slap and don't you let her talk to you like that. That she disrespected you or whatever. And then he comes back. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. That's disrespectful.
Yeah.
And so I just had to laugh about that because it looked like he got chastised or something. So he's looking around the room like, who's going to cut this questioning? Like, where's Robyn? Is she going to stop this or whatever? And then, and then he tells Suki he has to do it on his own. Tell her to I don't want that question anymore. We're not talking about that. My sexuality is not up for conversation. I'm like, dude, you brought it up. Nobody would have even known about your tryst. You're the one who told everybody about it. So
and you could tell, or at least from what I perceived with Christine, like reliving that clip, is that that's embarrassing for her to like have her husband disclose his own personal information. So he has every right to do it, but something that she didn't know and about him. And he specifically said, I never told her. It wasn't that it just never came up, because I'm sure that my husband has things that have just never come up that he hasn't told me. But like, this seems pertinent, especially when like being chaste is part of your religion and you told Mary and you told Robyn. So 50% of your wives know this big thing about you, and then 50% of them don't. And like you guys have said, Janelle just probably, and she laughs about it. So she's like, ugh, it is what it is. Like Janelle herself was married, but Christine wasn't. Christine makes a big deal in the show about talking about how she didn't kiss Cody until they were married. She was very adherent to what was supposed to be done, and then to learn that the husband that you married wasn't.
Yeah, she followed every one of the rules that we were raised that you had to follow. And part of the teachings, I shouldn't say the teachings, are that you are chaste, and if you're not, you have that communication, because you're taking this whole family up into heaven, and they need to have that choice whether they want to hook on to your royal carriage and make it up into heaven. And so, yes. And Janelle made a great point on Cody wouldn't have brought that up. That's something based on our teachings that he would have been embarrassed about.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't have brought it up. So, and then Christine says, why is he bringing it up now? What's the whole reason? Because if he had communicated that with Christine or with Janelle, would that have changed their mind whether they wanted to marry him? He brought that up with Robyn because she had that in her past. She was aware of it, said, hey, does this something that, and that was something for them to bond on, him and Robyn to bond on, that they had both made mistakes before they were married. And so, but Christine had never done that. And so why would he bring that up? That's something that he would be ashamed about. But why wouldn't he bring it up if that would have made her choose, yes, I'll get married, or no, I won't get married. So,
right. It felt a little like like there was some informed consent being withheld
Mhm.
from Christine.
Mhm.
Like is something that would have really mattered to Christine. She didn't know going into the marriage, and that seems messed up. Yeah. What did you guys? Go ahead.
One thing about on that,
No.
he said several times that he felt like after the wives left, they got really mean, and they're talking about him very mean. So I feel like this is one of the biggest reasons he brought this up, is a way to get back at them for how the mean things that they're saying, because he knew this would sting. He knew this would hurt if they found out about this, and found out about it in such a public way. And so, in my opinion, that's why he's bringing it up now, is because it's a way to stab back at the girls for talking mean about him after.
Counterpunch. He used the word counterpunch.
Yeah, a counterpunch, he said. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, he's so vindictive. And it's just a real sign of emotional immaturity, because his whole thing was like, I treat those around me like crap because they treated me like crap. Well, we could have a conversation about if that's even true, but why is that like your go-to? Like if someone, like what happened to like letting things roll off your back? Did you ever learn about that? Or that you don't have to fight fire with fire? Like, say your kids were raining down all this judgment on you. Do you really? Because he talks about all this trash talking that's happened about him on the show, but really what we hear from him is him saying things like his kids are a bunch of jerks. He doesn't really like them. The way they feel about him, he feels about them. He has said all of that on the show. And does he think about the fact that his kids are going to watch that?
Right. Right. And when I'm wondering, because I hear majority of the trash talking comes from Kody. It doesn't come from the other women. So I'm wondering if he's seeing something offline, and we don't follow a lot of other, like we don't watch a lot of other stuff when it comes to sister wives. So I don't know if his kids have done interviews or whatever. Maybe that's what he's speaking about. And I know there's the one thing that Peyton did a while ago. Like, I don't know how long ago, but we just haven't got involved in watching outside things about sister wives. So I've been curious what he's talking about, why he thinks everyone's out there trash talking him all the time when they're not. It's, at least his family doesn't seem like they are. So
yeah, I will say in the last couple of years, Christine and Janelle do a lot of promo for new seasons together, and they will, I won't even call it trash talking him, but they'll get some jokes in at his expense, if you will. That's about it. And yeah, Peyton's interview, that was a couple years ago. And even in that, he didn't come out and like trash talk his dad. He was just saying things like, I haven't heard from my dad in 7 months. Well, if you don't want your kids to drop facts, like maybe call them. I don't know. But yeah.
But even that's common. I mean, honestly, men don't necessarily reach out to their children all the time unless there's a specific, I need you for something. And so then I'll reach out and be like, hi, son, how are you doing? Like, let's get together soon, because they know something's about to come up that they need that person for. But the men just don't really reach out to the kids, at least not in my experience. It's we have to reach out to our parents in order to have that conversation.
Especially those of us that are away from the religion.
Right.
Once you leave the religion, they have failed at teaching you properly. And so if you want a relationship, just like he says, I'm here in the church door with my hand out. As long as you can come back to the religion, then we can have a conversation. But you will not go out, turn away from everything that we've taught you and then criticize us. You won't do that. That's unacceptable. And so it is one of those things. It's just the way that we're all raised. That you as a child who left the religion and left their teachings, they have failed there. They're going to concentrate on those that are still a part of it to try to teach them. And so, yes, if you're still a part of the AUB, you're going to have a good relationship with that parent. But But once you've stepped out and away from it, no relationship. You have to work on that. They're not responsible for working on that relationship.
Right.
So
yeah. We have a couple super chats here from Share
thanks.
Bear. Love the collaboration between the three of you. Thank you. And thank you. Cody drives me crazy. Why bring up a topic if you don't want to talk about it?
Which he does a lot. He brings it up because he does want to talk about it, and then he wants to be a victim about it, or to show that he's the better person.
Yeah, or he wants to talk about it if he can steer the conversation and talk about it in the light most favorable to him. And it's like, okay, well, if Suki asks any follow-up question, all of a sudden it's crossing a line. And it's like, okay.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah.
Brittany, go ahead.
No, don't go.
Oh, thank you so much, Brittany. But everyone else is supposed to get over what he says about everyone else. Yeah. It's do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. He is the priesthood leader. His job is supposed to guide you and to tell you where you need to improve and everything like that. But you as a child or you as a wife can't do that. It's got to be from above him. His priesthood leader is the one that is going to tell him if he needs to adjust and change. Right. So it's a belief system that we are raised in, that they shouldn't talk back, but he has every right to guide them and to chastise them. And when they're snarky back at him, then he can't handle that. That's why he won't get on a chair with the other wives, because they're too witty for him and they don't respect his authority anymore.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question here. Thank you so much. Why did Kay make R give that purity speech, but he didn't need to talk about throwing away his own purity? So I think that's season 6. So I don't know if you guys have gotten to that yet, but
we watched that episode.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah. All right. So it's one of the most iconic moments in Sister Wives history, but good point. Like Cody could have chimed in and been like, yeah, me too. But really, he just let Robyn go with her scarlet letter to the family to be like, I was trash, but now I'm a treasure.
Yeah. Well, she was teaching them not to lose, because I went through a divorce. If it had come up that he had done it, the kids would have probably went, oh my gosh, what are you guys even talking about? The respect that Cody had demanded at that point and had within the family would have been diminished, and then all of those kids would have run out. And so we're going to tell you a scary story so that you don't lose your virtue. But if we find out that Dad did this too, and he's been teaching us for 17 years that this isn't what's supposed to happen, he's ashamed of that. He's not going to come out and make a statement like that, especially if Robyn's there and can do it and tell a really good story.
And can take the fall. And this happens all the time in polygamy. These men will do this. Their burdens are their crosses to bear. They're no one else's. You don't need to worry about this. I mean, even recently, we just heard of a story of their kids found out something about them. They took it to their parents, and the dad said, you don't get to judge me for that. I've already repented with God, and I've already had this conversation with God, and this is over. So you don't get to say anything about this, and neither do the victims that he hurt. And so this is just really common for these men. And this is another reason, Cory and I, literally, we will talk to our kids about anything that we have done. There's nothing off the table for us because of the mass amount of hypocrisy that we learned about our parents.
Yeah.
And the way that it's do what I say, not what I do. And they put themselves in this like godlike status. So it's almost like when they fall, it's a hard fall.
Yeah.
And some of them just go straight to pride and ego, and you don't get to judge me. And others of them go to disgrace, shame, and guilt. And then I've even seen some people choose out of life over things like that. So
that's heartbreaking. That's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Zoe, thank you so much for the super sticker. And Wendy has a comment. Thank you so much, Wendy. I found a lot of truth about what David said about polygamy. I did too. And I really appreciate, I appreciate talking to you guys, for your insights, because this lifestyle is not common for a lot of us to try to like wrap our minds around. It's funny. Kody is sitting here all offended about talking about sexual things when he has a wife, but it was like, dude, you were literally on TV telling people you were sleeping with multiple women for over a decade. So what, like, why feign just being demure, or like, I don't even know, like, what is this that you're giving us right now? I don't get it.
Right. It doesn't make any sense to me either. Well, and he says that we all agreed money and sex were off the table, and yet we're on season 3 and that's all they talk about is money. And so I'm like, so wait a minute, you guys are talking about money all over the place unless it comes to being held accountable. Then you don't want to talk about money. Let's, and we all assume that you're having sex with all these women unless it comes down to having to be accountable. Now I don't want to talk about it. So it just really comes down to being accountable, about accountability. I don't want to be accountable for that. So that's disrespectful. Don't disrespect me and talk to me about my sexuality. What the hell? You talked about it for 15 seasons, so 19 seasons.
Well, and Christine's put him out. He was putting her out to pasture, and she started making a deal with it. And so that's another reason he's offended by her. So
yeah.
Yeah. So, and speaking of sexuality, Susie says, Kody not wanting to discuss his sexuality was interesting. No one said anything about his sexuality. Yeah. I don't know if he was just jumbling up terms or whatever, but it was an interesting word choice. But yeah, it was, go
Freudian
ahead.
slip.
Freudian I don't know.
Slip? Is that okay?
Yeah.
It was interesting because we know that they filmed this over 2 days, and you could tell that like part of the wrestling sexuality conversation was one day, and then Suki wanted to like circle back to it, and Kody was like, oh no, like you guys really crossed the line. He's like looking around the room like, is anyone gonna like stop this? I've been so generous here. And it's like, dude, Kody thinks a lot of himself, and like that he is so generous with giving information about his life as if he's not getting paid to do that.
I know, right? That's what we said too. Dude, that's what you're getting paid to do.
Yeah. And so generous about marrying wives and inviting them into his kingdom. And he feels like he is super generous to everybody. So because he can be, because he's the leader, the king of his empire, that not only is he created here on earth to go into the heavens, but he's created a show. He's going to take all the kudos for that too. So
we laughed when he said that.
Yeah. We have another super chat here. Missy Lane, I thought in the AUB, God only spoke to the prophet. If that is true, why does Robyn keep saying that God will tell her this or that? Like she said, God told her Kody was the one for her.
So that one, I mean, I paused this and had a conversation with Cory. It took us about 3 hours to watch this episode because we paused, we talked. Yeah. And then we rewatch so that we can watch other people's facial expressions, so we can kind of try to get a really overall picture. And Kody said one of the most profound, honest things I think I've ever heard him say on this episode, that he was so attracted to Robyn because she listened to her intuition, and Mary had intuition as well. So for centuries, women are very in tune with a lot of emotions, and this is a feminine trait. And they were burned at the stake for being witches, for having this intuition. Women have been discounted for centuries for this basic thing that we're born with. And so I feel like in the AUB, we're taught this a lot, that women can, now this is going to go contrary to some of the stuff. Women can give blessings to other women.
Okay.
They can give blessings to children. They can give not to men, however, because the men's priesthood will always supersede the women's like level of authority. But they can give blessings to other women. They can give blessings to children. The LDS Church did this for years, and then they finally started taking that away as well. And so when I first got my first baby, I had a mother's blessing. I was given a mother's blessing from my grandmother. And so these are very common. So women use this intuition or this God speaking to them as a way of a natural knowing of what's happening. And so a lot of women do believe that they speak, or not necessarily speak. It's more of a terminology of speaking with God, or God will protect me, or God will let me know this. It's not like
the inspiration.
Where the prophet would be more like, yeah, I'm having a conversation with God. That's different than her getting inspiration or guidance from God. Hopefully that answers the question.
Or a knowing of a question she has. So
yeah.
There was I think it might have been the first episode where Janelle talks about having like a spiritual revelation about adding another wife, and Christine was like, girl, you're crazy. Like that wasn't God, that was Cody.
Oh my, and they do that too. They'll say like, oh my gosh, I had this, I hate to discount somebody's spiritual experience, but sometimes it's like, is this a spiritual experience or is this manipulation? Like, which one are we going for here?
Or you're legitimizing. No,
your bad behavior.
See, if I feel like that God supported me and wanted me to do this, then it's okay for me to get over my jealousies or whatever. So I'm being backed by God. So they use it as or it was right. Cody did it the right way. So trying to lift him up too. So
there have been moments, where something will happen and it was like, whoa, that feels like divine intervention. Right. And then there's obviously you can see it's like, I feel like you're using religion to manipulate people.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that the two can exist. I don't think you can just write off like divine intervention entirely just because, some people pervert it. But I think the two can exist in the same religious circles, unfortunately and unfortunately, because because humans are fallible and we will use things to our advantage.
And I think that Robyn does that quite often because she is so intuitive. I don't know. I can just see some of the conversations between her and Cody. And Cody just naturally believes what she's saying because she is so intuitive. So she must know da 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 da. And so therefore her word is superior to Christine's, who's not intuitive. Her word is superior to Janelle's, who is not intuitive because Janelle's left brain thinker. She's not a right brain thinker, whatever excuse. And this is where I say that Robyn learns therapy speech and manipulates Cody and turns him into a tool, because that is what, he trusts everything that she says because of her intuition, her natural knowing, and yet doesn't give any credit to the other girls who might have some of that. So, and I just think it's a manipulation.
Yeah. I always kind of thought that Robyn was very insecure about her coming into this this solid family unit. And it was sad to me, and is particularly in this installment when Suki asks, like, would you do it again? Was it worth it? Or something like that. And Cody was like, no. And then Suki was like, but like at any point in time, like Lehigh, Vegas. And he was like, no, like it was all bad or something, whatever. And that was, so it was like, it seemed like they were at least maybe not perfectly happy, because I've read the book and we know that there were instances of strife before the show, but it seemed at least they were like a well-oiled machine by the time we met them back in 2010. So I always felt like Robyn was very insecure about her place in the family, and she worked very hard to dismantle Cody's like reliance on the other wives. Like Christine was clearly like the cooking wife.
Mm-hmm.
And he would tell Robyn like, oh, you're too pretty to cook, or Christine can show you how I like my eggs. And that for someone like Robyn, I would think would be like a dig. Like, oh, I can't.
Oh yeah.
I can't make you eggs. Like, you don't like my egg. Like, if you love Robyn so much, Cody, just tell her you like her eggs.
They're just eggs, for hell's sakes. They're not that big of a deal.
How many?
Oh yeah.
How many different ways are there to even make? Well, and I know that there are a lot, but anyways.
No, and I totally agree. And I think that those are the little digs that husbands do to wives that maybe they're unaware that they do it. But this is where you're constant. And I love it when Cody keeps saying, you know, Janelle and Mary or Christine are just going to spend the rest of their lives comparing us, because those are the little digs that make him compare Christine to Robyn, or Robyn compare herself to Christine. He's been doing it to these women for 19 seasons. And now he's pissed that Christine is getting paid to sit on a couch and talk about their lives. So she's talking about it and comparing David to, I mean, the guy makes no sense. Like, dude, you're the one who started the show. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and we know you're not going anywhere, so we'll see you next season, Cody.
Right, right. And we haven't read their book. I've never read the book.
Sure.
Maybe one day I'll pick it up if I have extra time, but it's not anything that we've ever gotten terribly deep into.
It's an interesting read. The way it's laid out is there's sections like sorority, matrimony, and family, or some, I forget, but each of them takes a section in that. And it's interesting the way that they compiled the book together, but it's a pretty easy read. It's not very long, and it came out in 2012. So right when the show was taking off. So they're still very much like polygamy, and Cody's still very much like, I love all my wives. And it's funny. People will bring out the funny thing about a book. The funny thing about putting your life on reality TV is people can go back and fact check you. And I think that's probably what pisses Cody off the most, because he'll say things now, and commentary channels like myself will be like, no, that's not what you said. And you know, the book, which is like the written word, will be like, oh, in this passage in your own book, you said X, Y, and Z. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. Why he's relying on his journal now, because he can go back in his journal and erase and rewrite in another name and stuff like that.
Is it a journal or is it a list of grievances?
Exactly.
I know. That's what I mean. They're brave to put their lives on TV, to have everything recorded. And, you know, we've said over and over, not everybody's experience in the AUB is the same, because they change the rules all the time. According to leadership, it changes. According to who's in charge, it's just so many. So what our experiences are totally different than someone else's. What we believe is doctrine might be totally different than what someone else believes is doctrine. And so we've expressed that a whole bunch. And so
we've already pointed out different ways that we are both raised in the same community around the same time. And we have differences in the way I was raised versus the way she was raised, tithing being one of them. So,
so I think as these guys evolve and their mind changes around religion and around doctrine and around polygamy, then their ideas start to change. And then sometimes they forget, I never believed that. I never did that. Why would I do that? That goes against everything that they believe now. But back then it is. And it is hard to watch yourself when you're like, oh, that was me. I totally did those cringeworthy moments. I don't believe that now. And unfortunately, we're raised in a religion where you have to be so perfect all the time. There's no room for grace of saying, you know what? I did believe that then full-heartedly, and now I believe something different. It's like you just double down and start digging in. And I was never wrong. What are you talking about? And so, it's you're always you have to have a level of perfection instead of progress. And it's like, no, I'm changing. I'm progressing. I'm no longer perfect. I'm in the middle of progress. And so it's a sad way.
Well, and it's hard for you to say that God or the Lord told me to do this, get married, have kids, and then admit later on that you're wrong, because then you're basically saying God was wrong in telling me this. So you have to double down on what you just said God told you to do, because you can't make God wrong. So
can't make God look bad.
Nope.
And this is why they didn't want you to go on TV, Cody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why they told him, this is going to ruin your family. They were told all the time not to do this show. So
one last super chat here, and then we'll wrap up. Catherine Perry actually taking the thoughts right out of my mouth, because I grew up Lutheran, and a lot of what you were saying, I'm like, yep, that rings true for me. So it's not just Mormon, AUB. This can be true of many different religions. You'd be surprised by all the parallels between polygamous families and other religious families. My very Catholic mother never acknowledged that she didn't protect me from my dad. That is heartbreaking, Catherine, and I'm so sorry that happened to you. But there's definitely parallels in. Sometimes people get so wrapped up in I'm a mouthpiece for God that they don't realize that you are not God. And I think Cody has particularly struggled with this, because I could see how this is a problem for men in polygamy when you are groomed to be the center of attention.
Yep.
You're kind of just stepping into this role you were born to play, right?
Yep.
Right. And they have such a godlike, and they don't even realize it. It's funny because we see, in our family, we would see my dad all the time, and it was just like, oh, there's just dad, right? But then we would go to a church function. Like my grandma passed away not too long ago, and we went to the church function, and some of my siblings were like, holy shit, did you see the way dad was acting? Like, these people bow down and worship him. And it was disgusting to some of my siblings to see it, because they hadn't gone to church. They had never experienced my dad was in leadership my whole life. So I'd seen that side of him, but some of my siblings had never seen that. And it stunned them, because they were like, what are these people? Like, they think this man can do no wrong. It almost scared them, because it felt like my dad had so much power. And the way he transformed and changed, he almost like physically looked different. Because he's just like, yep, here I am. And that's what these men do in this religion. Cory's like, yep, that would be me. I am the king.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out and chit-chatting. This has been so much fun. And thank you guys in the chat. The chat has been great always. Go ahead.
Hi, sister. I know I've been watching the chat too and getting a good little laugh. So I'm kind of going back and forth, but my sister's in there. Hi.
Oh, hello. Hello, sister.
I love it. We get a lot of family members who will come on and watch us live.
That's really great, because I know you said that you have some family that is not so happy with your choice to speak out. But as from a viewer of Sister Wives, because we know that the Browns have painted us a very rosy picture of polygamy, to have people, and there's ex-polygamists, ex-Mormon content creators on YouTube that I've just learned so much from about just the doctrine that I never knew about. So it puts everything into a lot of perspective for a lot of us. We're very grateful for you guys.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we've loved it. We've loved chatting with you too. You've been so much fun to chat with.
Yeah, we love it. And when it comes back for season 20, we will do it again. And you guys are doing rewatches, right?
Yeah. We are. Yep. And then we'll be doing our recap of the episode. It'll drop tomorrow. But we haven't been able to film it yet, because we watched it like 3 times today. And so we haven't had a chance to film it yet, but we'll be doing that, and it'll drop tomorrow.
Awesome. So if you guys are worried about a drought of Sister Wives content, that's not going to happen, because Melanie and Cory are doing rewatches, and I'll be giving my thoughts on different things I think about during the course until we get to season 20. So
we're actually going to do a whole series on the rules of polygamy, because we did not know that there was rules. And Cory's other mother actually sent us a list of 27 rules to polygamy. So we're going to be creating that series here real quick too.
But she had to follow as a polygamist wife.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm excited about that. All right, you guys, take care. Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah.
Bye.